Fall is the best time to learn to identify buckthorn because it starts popping out and distinguishing himself from native plants that are lookalikes. Like for example here, this is a black cherry. It's starting to go to color, so the bark won't confuse you too much. The leaves are quite different. They're prunus, but some people do confuse them, particularly with the bark. And there's the black, or the buckthorn rather, oval leaf. Sometimes they're alternate, sometimes they're opposite, as you can tell right there. Uh, they're alternate there, then they become opposite in some other plants. And the same plant has almost alternate leaves. Regardless, they really start popping out from everything else, the natives in particular. And also the access is much better. Now, as you can see here, this is pretty obvious. It's all green right through there. And this area here, got some more black cherry that's starting to go to color. So right next to it, you can see how dark it is. So if you don't know what buckthorn looks like right now or in the fall, it's a great time to go out and really learn, because it's going to be the only thing that's green. We haven't had a frost around here, so there's really no coloration or any wilt on these buckthorn, and until we do, it'll stay that way. So through here again, here's some choke cherry that's starting to turn. That one sometimes people mistake for buckthorn. And the leaves sometimes, because what happens with buckthorn is occasionally you will have leaves that are a little bit more flushed than the really tight oval leaves, and that can confuse somebody, like from a choke cherry. Or for a prunus, sometimes they're a little more elongated like that, and typically that's with a flush. But there's another factor too. Every one of these buckthorn is produced from an individual seed, so you're going to have substantial variation. There'll be some uniformity as far as just looking at it, but with that amount of plants that you have, we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of seedlings, you will have some variation. And also at the same time is those seedlings will be very competitive. If something's a very heavy producer of seed, more of those genetics will go out. If it doesn't produce a whole lot of seeds, they won't go out as much. So that's a very big negative. So again, yeah, through the riparian grape, you can really push through. Or actually, that's some woodbine. And the grape colors are changing, and the green is popping out. So another one, or occasionally people will mistake the dogwood for a buckthorn as well, particularly the flushing buckthorn, the ones with the bigger leaves. But you can see the coloration is changing on these also, so that'll be less likely to happen. Here's an example right here and then there. Pretty obvious what that buckthorn is, and by looking at these repeatedly, you'll be able to identify them on sight. I don't see any real flushed ones down here. I could find some that were cut. Usually they're just smaller ones. This particular one, the glossy, we don't have many of those around here. That's the only one I've seen in this whole park unit, but that's a different one, but it's a buckthorn also. So I'll go through here, and also too is that you can start scanning areas like this and see if things pop out that are green. So if you were to really thin them out, I can see some back there, they're small. You just start cutting those too as the month progresses. And as time goes, it's going to be even more pronounced. The buckthorns will hold their leaves. And here's an example I'm talking about, a flushed leaf. Now, those are completely different looking. It looks like it got, a lot of times that's what happens when it gets cut, damage or something, it'll flush out and you'll create these big leaves. Maybe next year they'll be smaller, but the flush is always good. Now that can be definitely just from initial sight, can be confused with chokecherry without any doubt. And even in some cases, if they're really elongated, you might do the black cherry. The black cherry is pretty pronounced. They're a lot harder to confuse. But they could also with these dogwoods, you could confuse it if you're not real sure. So right now is the time to get out, walk around, identify the buckthorn, and really be good at it. And as time goes by, you want to cut it all down.